Now last week at the county fair, I picked up this silver foxtail and I asked y'all out there, what are some ideas of flies I can tie with this? A lot of people came back and said, oh, use it for a hair wing streamer. And that's a great idea. I'm sure it'll make a great hair wing. But somebody said, why don't you try Nymph with it? So that's what I want to do today. Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Matt, thanks for stopping by. So I sat down this afternoon with this silver foxtail thinking, what could I come up with? So I went to some of the pattern books and got some inspiration from nymphs like the AP Black Beaver or the Martinez Black, even the Skunk Caddis we did a little while ago. And I came up with an idea of using these, they're pretty long hairs, using the hairs from this tail as on a nymph, but using it for the tail, but also wrapping these as a body, and then put a rib on it, put a wing case, and then some hackle for the front legs. So pretty standard all-purpose nymph, just a generic mayfly nymph. And over the years, there have been thousands of patterns that follow this particular formula. Except maybe wrapping the hair for a body. There aren't that many nymphs that do that. So obviously, no history to this fly. But what you are going to learn is that you can take, any type of critter that's got long hairs or the tail from a critter, whether it's a fox or a coyote, raccoon, a skunk, and even a squirrel. Some of the hair on a squirrel tail is pretty long. You can do this. You can use that hair for the tail and then give it a twist and wrap it up for the body. So the cool thing about a pattern like this is you can get a lot of mileage. You can vary the colors of the thorax or the wing case or your hackle for the legs. There's really an infinite number of combinations that you can tie from a style like this. So this pattern today that I'm calling the Silver Fox, it's nothing crazy. It's just another one of those patterns you can sit down and have fun with. Let's give it a shot. So there it is in the vise, what I'm calling my Silver Fox nymph. Now, no common sizes for this, but I'm going to say tie it on whatever you tie your generic mayfly nymphs on. So a 12 is a good place to start, maybe as small as an 18. This is a size 12. It's a 2 extra long nymph hook, and I am going to weight this. Any type of fly like this, I will typically put some weight on it. So I'm going to just counter wrap about 8 or 9 wraps right here, pretty much the front half of the fly. Okay, that'll work. Black thread. I'm going to put a little dam right behind this weight, take a few wraps over it, dam it up front, and then take it back to the bend. Now here's the really fun part. The tail and the body. Take a small tuft of hair from your silver fox tail and take a look at this. There's the tips. It almost looks like bear. And then going down to where you get right here, see it gets silver. This is where I cut it off close to the actual, base of the tail. This is what we're going to use for the dubbing. This is some really cool stuff. So just pull this out, and that's what you're going to be left with. Some really nifty, cool, easy to use underfur. So just pull that out, and it's a little fuzzy, but we're going to catch this in right here for our tail. And it's a nymph tail. You can make it as long as you typically make them. Maybe that about right there I think is going to work. So let's catch this one in. And then just a few wraps going back right there. Now, if you need to, put a wrap up underneath it. I'm going to just to make sure it doesn't really spin around the hook on me. Okay. And before we move on and wrap this as a body, let's go ahead and catch in some silver rib. Now sure, it doesn't have to be silver. Actually, I'm going to take a couple of wraps, just kind of prop this up, get it out of my way right there. And I can back off. Well, that's going to work. But let's go ahead and catch our rib in up to the front, or the front of the back half of the body, let's say, just right behind this weight. So catch that in, pull it until it's just just aft of those weighted wraps. Now take it back right here, and I'm going to actually take one more wrap right there. Okay, so I'm fine with that. I'm going to take my thread up to about the 2/3 point. This is where we're going to start our wing case and where we're going to end our body. So I've got this silver foxtail, and I'm going to spin it a little bit. It will kind of remind you of, I don't know, let's see, we did a skunk caddis not too long ago, and it was kind of the same principle. You were wrapping hair, you know, kind of twisting hair into a rope and wrapping it up the body like this. So it does give you a unique type body. It's almost like putting a thick silk on. And it's pretty easy to get a decent taper. So I think we're fine right there with that taper we've got. Let's catch this off with a couple of wraps. Now we can snip the rest of this fox tail hair off. Maybe a couple other wraps right there just to lock that in. Now I'm going to counter wrap this rib. However many wraps you want, I think 4 or 5. And this isn't really for adding weight or anything or much flash. It's just giving it a little bit of segmentation. Okay, so I think that is going to be enough right there. Let's see, I'm getting a little close right there, so. All right, that's going to be fine. Go ahead and catch this off. I'm going to put just a couple of wraps and then pull this wire forward so it's parallel to the hook, and then take a few wraps to really lock it in. Now, when I helicopter it off, I don't risk it unraveling on me. But this was a size brassy, so it's pretty thick wire. I'm going to have a little, potentially a sharp nub right there. What you can do is just a few loose wraps to bury that. Okay, now let's take our thread back to this 2/3 point, and we're going to catch in our wing case. And this one, I'm using blue, dyed blue duck. So this is actually, I think it's a kingfisher blue, but it kind of looks like an Arctic blue to me. So just a pretty small slip right here. I'm going to catch it on right on top. Let's see, and before I go too far forward, just flip it over and see, is that going to be enough of a wing case? I think I want to take one wrap back, just a little bit farther back right there. Okay, I think that's going to work for us. Now let's put a little wax on and take that underfur that we just pulled out of that tuft of fox, this stuff right here. This is really kind of magical dubbing. You know, I've never used it before, but when I did a couple of these flies, I thought this is good stuff. Now it's a light color, it's almost a silver color. I'm going to just kind of touch it on here, not real thick, but maybe a 3-inch noodle or so, because my thorax is kind of thick already, so I don't want to put a big thick noodle on here. Just a little bit more than painting the thread, I'd say. Now let's wrap it up. Okay, that might be a little bit bigger of a thorax than I intended, but we'll recover. Okay, now next step, before we flip that wing case over, we're going to tie in some hackle for legs. And I'm going to have a little bit of trim in there. You see that fuzz coming off? But no big deal. I always have a lot of cleanup anyway. So for the hackle, I would say any black soft hackle you've got. This is a starling, but if you've got a small black hen feather, that's going to work great too. So just clean up, you know, some of this right here. Till you got about a 1/2 inch of a feather, and I'm going to tie it in from the tip. So get a little catch-in point about like that right there. And this is a pretty delicate feather. If you've ever worked with starling, you'll know So you can't put a whole lot of torque on it when you're wrapping it. But that's okay, and we're not going to make too many wraps anyway. So I got that caught in. I am going to snip off that tip. And I'm going to need my hackle pliers because I don't have a whole lot of feather to work with. These spring-loaded ones here, I think this will work just fine. So let's take this and wrap it. 3 wraps if you can get it. I think that will be plenty. Nope, and I let it break out of my hackle pliers. So before I let go of that, I'm going to just try to get a securing wrap underneath it. Okay, all right on top of it. All right, I think that worked, but I got that nub, this stem sticking off right here. Let's take care of that. Now that's a big buggy mess. I have a lot of flies that I say that's a big buggy mess because I guess a lot of my flies are. But we'll have it cleaned up before we're done. Okay, so I've pushed those hackle fibers back. And if you want to, just try to push them off the side or use this Wingcase. The Wingcase, we're going to flip this over and that will help us position these legs. It'll push them off to the side if they aren't already off to the side. So fold this over. Let's do a couple of wraps right here and we'll take a look at it. Okay, that's enough of a Wingcase, and I've got 2 wraps right there and they're tight enough. So let's go ahead and snip this off right here. Now we can work on our head, and remember we're going to have a little bit of cleanup, and I'll show you one more step because these are legs. This starling is. So go ahead and build you a big nymph head. I think that's fine right there. I could probably even make it a little bit bigger, but we'll stop with what we got right there. Now we're ready for a whip finish. I'm going to put UV resin on it, so 3 or 4 turn will certainly be enough right there. I'm going to just put some tension on my thread, pull it tight, slide these scissors up here and just kind of saw that off. And that will help me, to keep from having a tag hanging off the bottom of my head. But let's take a look at this fly from the top. Okay, I like those legs, but I don't really want the legs coming off the bottom. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to trim them off the bottom, and then all I'm leaving are the legs on the side. So you see that? And we do have a little bit of cleanup. Remember that thorax? I got a little crazy and had a little bit of that fox under fur coming off right there. So trim that up, or just don't worry about it. Call it done. You know what? I'm gonna call this one done. It's a little bit of fuzzy, but hey, I like it fuzzy. Just a drop of head cement right there, and this thing's ready to fish. So a pretty simple pattern, a general all-purpose nymph with a style and technique that you can make all kinds of variants, and this pattern will go a long way for you. So that's it, everybody. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.